Have you ever wondered, what happens when an ordinary human is expected to always be extraordinary? When winning is not a choice, but a requirement? When every mistake, no matter how small, is scrutinized by millions of eyes? And when you don't just play for yourself, but for a country, a legacy, and a sporting tradition that has reigned undefeated for decades? In the world of Chinese table tennis, where glory and pressure always walk hand in hand, there is a man who chose to move quietly forward, silently bearing the weight of a nation's dream, facing loneliness atop the peak for more than a decade. His name is Fan Zhendong. Welcome to Ping Pong Dreams, where every match is a chapter of an epic tale, and every athlete a mountain of emotion. Today, we follow the footsteps of one of the most resilient warriors Chinese table tennis has ever produced, Fan Zhendong, the man who carries China's ping pong dream with all its unimaginable weight. Fan was born in Guangzhou into an ordinary working-class family, one that never imagined their son would one day become a global sports icon. His parents, with no background in professional sports, simply supported him when they saw their little boy spending hours hitting a wooden paddle against the wall without tiring. The first person to take him to a table tennis class was his mother, not out of lofty ambition, but simply because he was too energetic and needed somewhere to burn off steam. But after that very first lesson, the little boy didn't want to leave the table. While other kids were watching cartoons or playing games, Fan just wanted to return to the training hall, practicing the same topspin he hadn't yet mastered the day before. And so, day after day, with no one forcing him, that child quietly chose for himself the most grueling path a Chinese boy could possibly walk, the path to becoming a professional table tennis player. At the age of 12, Fan left home, his parents, his warm dinners, his familiar comforts, and moved to Beijing to join the National Youth Training System. There were no hugs when he fell, no childhood friends, only the cold echo of bouncing ping pong balls and the constant pressure to improve day by day. In those early days of strangeness and solitude, one coach left a lasting mark on Fan's life, provincial coach Li Ming. He wasn't famous, wasn't flashy, but he told Fan something he never forgot. If you want to be a champion, start by never complaining. Coach Li taught Fan the power of silence, not silence from fear, but from focus. Not everything needs to be shouted to be proven. Some are born to be flames, and others, like Fan, are born to be mountains. Steady, stoic, unshakable. Fan Zhendong didn't have the long reach of Xu Xin, the incredible backhand of Zhang Ji, or the fluid agility of Ma Long, but he had something few others possessed: mental resilience. Every stroke was the result of thousands of quiet repetitions. One of Fan's most iconic matches was the 2019 China Open final against Lin Gaoyuan, a technically brilliant and lightning-fast opponent. Fan fell behind early, pushed into defensive mode through most of the opening games. But he didn't flinch. With steely nerves, he turned the match around and clinched the final set in a narrow win. After the game, he sat in a corner of the court, breathing heavily, sweat pouring from his face, but his eyes remained still, composed, as if the battle within his mind had never ended. At the 2020 World Cup, Fan faced European legend Timo Boll, a clash of philosophies, Timo the artist, Fan the warrior. In the deciding set, Fan launched a series of ferocious counterattacks, each one faster, sharper than the last, until the crowd erupted. But as always, Fan bowed quietly. No screaming, no chest thumping. He let his racket speak for him. To understand Fan Zhendong fully, we must go deeper, into the silent battles he fought long before the world watched. When he first entered the national youth team, Fan wasn't the most promising prospect. He was shorter, less muscular, and his playing style lacked flair. Some even said, he's decent, but he won't go far. Fan didn't answer with words. He answered with time. While others rested, Fan trained. While teammates went out, Fan stayed behind, repeating drills. One of his early coaches remarked, "Some players are born with talent. Fan wasn't. But I've never seen anyone endure like him." In 2020 and 2021, global table tennis was shaken by the pandemic. And then the unthinkable happened. Fan was dropped from China's Olympic roster for Tokyo, despite being the world #1 at the time. Fans were outraged. Media exploded. But the one who hurt the most was Fan himself. In a rare interview, he only said one sentence: "I accept the team's decision. I have to be better." No anger, no bitterness. But afterward, Fan disappeared into the training hall. No social media, no endorsements, no headlines. Just ping pong, again, as if it were his very first day. When he returned, he was no longer an heir to the throne. He became something far more powerful, a source of inspiration to the next generation. Young star Wang Chuqin once shared, "There was a time I was so nervous before a match, I missed 5 shots in a row. Brother Fan came over, placed a hand on my shoulder. He didn't say a word, but that touch calmed me more than 100 pep talks." Fan doesn't preach, he doesn't lecture, he lives as he plays. Quiet but unbreakable. In China's table tennis system, where every era has its successor, Fan was meant to follow Ma Long. But even Ma Long's towering shadow never broke him. Though Fan lost to Ma countless times, he never once complained. "I learn from Ma Long every day. I will keep learning, keep playing until I carve out a path of my own." In 2017, Fan suffered a persistent wrist injury, one that would quietly linger for nearly 2 years. Doctors advised him to take a long break, at least 6 months. But Fan didn't stop. He continued to play, wrapping his wrist in gauze, numbing the pain with anti-inflammatory patches and quiet endurance. There were matches where he competed at only 80% of his ability, yet no one knew. He didn't talk about it. He didn't make excuses. It wasn't until he collapsed during a grueling training session that the coaches and medical team realized he had been fighting through the pain for months. When asked why he hadn't said anything, Fan simply replied, "Everyone plays through pain, but I'm the one who was entrusted with this responsibility." Fan never sought fame. He avoided variety shows, had no active personal social media accounts, and rarely gave interviews. He feared that too much attention would cloud what mattered most in his life: the tiny white ball. Table tennis was not just his profession, it was his devotion. His personal life remains a mystery. No scandals, no public relationships, just a man quietly eating dinner alone in a hotel room, rewatching match footage, asking himself, "Where could I have done better?" Ma Long once said, "If I drop even a little, Fan will surpass me. But I'm not worried, because if anyone deserves it, it's him." Zhang He said, "He's not a genius, but he's the one I believe will go farther than most geniuses." To younger teammates like Wang Chuqin, Fan isn't a distant legend. He's a living example. A man who lives as he plays, modest, grounded, and relentlessly driven. Fan's style is not flashy. He has no signature trick shot, no viral highlight reel, but he has no weaknesses. His game is a fortress, rock-solid defense, sharp counterattacks, unwavering rhythm. He is not a natural-born prodigy, but he is the embodiment of willpower. And now, standing on the threshold of the Paris 2024 Olympics, Fan Zhendong faces perhaps his final shot at the biggest stage. The men's singles gold medal, the only major title that has eluded him, is not just a trophy. It is a symbol. A reply to over 20 years of silent struggle, to over 100,000 hours of training, to a life lived without complaint, without retreat. But even if that moment never comes, even if he never touches that gold, Fan Zhendong is already a monument. Fan is not a flame, he is stone. Not radiant, but unshakable. Not explosive, but enduring. He doesn't need the spotlight, because he is, in himself, a quiet, unwavering light. He has carried the dream of China on his shoulders, with blood, sweat, and invisible wounds. In a world that glorifies triumphant moments, Fan Zhendong chose the path of silence, where there are no standing ovations, only lonely steps forward, grounded in unbreakable belief. When people speak of Fan Zhendong, they don't just mention his victories. They remember a man who stood firm in the storm of expectations, who never collapsed under the crushing weight of solitude, and who kept walking forward anyway. Because some people were not born to be praised, they were born to carry. The journey of Fan Zhendong is not yet complete. The future remains unwritten. And as the sound of bouncing ping-pong balls continues, like the beating of a heart, there will be more stories waiting to be told. You've just listened to Ping Pong Dreams, Episode 20, Fan Zhendong, the bearer of China's dream, peak glory, and immense pressure. The dream goes on. And somewhere in a silent gym or under a lonely spotlight, a quiet warrior prepares once again, not to be seen, but to endure. See you in the next episode of Ping Pong Dreams.